So religion dies, but self-awareness rises. So yeah, religion is dying. It's not just about the empty buildings. A big reason religion is dying is that religious folk have failed to learn and to teach the art of self-awareness. And that is a failure with consequences. Without self-awareness, we live on autopilot. We repeat old mistakes, calling vice virtue, clinging to dead tradition, hurting ourselves, hurting others, often not even knowing we're doing it. In the last episode, Socrates told us that wisdom, the good life, the virtuous life, doesn't come without practices. So if practices are at the center of reconstructed spiritual communities, self-awareness is at the center of the practices. Everything we will rebuild has to start with self-awareness. If we rebuild community without self-awareness, it's just people rehashing the same old dysfunctions. If we rebuild service without self-awareness, it's just busyness and the need to be needed. If we rebuild justice without self-awareness, it's just self-righteous virtue signaling. If we are parenting without self-awareness, we're just reacting, following our same old family scripts. Self-awareness is the practice under every other practice. Socrates said it was that way, but so did Judaism and Christianity and Buddhism. Self-awareness is the practice that keeps life from running us. All the wisdom traditions put it at the center. So there's Socrates, 2,500 years ago, saying, the unexamined life is not worth living. Judaism, before that, search me, know my heart, test my thoughts. Christianity, let everyone examine themselves before they take the bread. Be transformed by the renewing of your minds. And Buddhism, ask where your thoughts come from. What thought or belief are you clinging to? What hindrance is holding you back? And better, each tradition also has practices to help us with self-awareness. Meditation and reflection and examine and confession, journaling. Each of these traditions, Western philosophy, Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism, carries the same core idea, but also carries practices that will support the idea. Because self-awareness isn't just an idea, it's a skill. And it's a skill we cultivate in our own lives, in our own communities. It's a necessary skill if we are going to be about the business of thinking differently and then rebuilding our spiritual communities in the rubble after religion has collapsed. In a moment and in the next episode, I'll get practical. Tools that can help us integrate self-awareness into our communities. But first, this has to be the starting place. That we recognize that self-awareness practice must be central. Even if it means, and it probably will, letting go of some sacred cow thing in order to make room for it, it has to be front and center. Now, it was invaluable for me when I was leading our community to let go of some established things so we could make place for self-awareness practice, which is very difficult to do. It was very helpful for me to know that I wasn't just making this self-awareness stuff up. It was very helpful for me to know that there is a long tradition, Western and Eastern, philosophical and religious, a heritage of putting self-awareness front and center. Self-awareness practice does invite inner transformation. Where the rebuilding project has to begin with that inner transformation, self-awareness is the scaffolding, the support of our rebuilding efforts. One of the most meaningful interactions I've had since I retired, a woman, a long part of our community, came over to sit at my kitchen table and tell me her story, and hers was a story of personal transformation through the years. It was a really great story, but it was a story about tools. Doug, you invited us to use this tool, and I did, and then this thing happened in my life. Later that year, Doug, you invited us to use that tool, and I did, and then this other thing happened in my life. Any story about transformation will inevitably become a story about the tools that facilitated that transformation, and self-awareness is that. It is a transformative practice. So great. That's just wonderful. But it's only great, it's only wonderful if we cultivate it as a skill. It's great that Socrates and Judaism and Christianity and Buddhism have all found this universal truth and they've all put it front and center, but to actually experience self-awareness, we need tools. So here's one, a very simple one, but I have found it invaluable. Writing it down. Writing it down. I ran across a quote years ago, Anais Nin. She wrote this. She said, "We write to taste life twice. We write to taste life twice." So when I read it, it struck me. writing stuff down can help us become self-aware. When we taste life a second time, writing stuff down, that second time we can add perspective to our experiences. Because, life comes at us fast. But if we will take some time later to write and reflect on and add context, it will help us become more self-aware. Now, there's a bunch of brain science behind that idea. Run our experience through multiple modalities. We activate different parts of our brains. So write it down as a spiritual practice of self-awareness. And an obvious place to start, journaling. Now, you don't need me to tell you much about journaling. You write down your thoughts, feelings, and experiences. And if you've done it, you know it will often deepen your own self-awareness. So maybe just a tip, one that has helped me, helped others in our community. And that is this: don't keep what we write. We go ahead and journal, but after we do, if we did it on paper, we throw the pages away. If we did it on a device, we delete the words. Because when we know that our words are going to remain, it is difficult not to edit them in our minds. I did that when I was young. I would frame my journals as the hero's journey. There I would be, unconsciously editing my words, not for self-awareness, but to tell a compelling story for posterity. There's me out there living life valiantly and nobly and boldly, and I was young and I was dumb. But here's the thing, I got older and I got smarter, and I was still editing my journal writing. I was just editing it differently. I would write a humility story now at this point. Oh, Doug's pretty humble, unpretentious. Look at him acknowledging his failures and flaws, a real model of spiritual maturity. I know, that is so silly. The point of a second taste of life is to not do stupid shit like that. The point is to stand outside of our egos, not to reinforce them. So it helped me, and it has helped many in our community to learn to throw the pages away. Make journaling a tool for self-awareness now, not ego reinforcing later. There's a helpful tip. Here's another. This one's 500 years old. It's called Ignatian Examen of Consciousness. Ignatian Examen of Consciousness. You can read all about it online. In our community, we distilled Loyola's 4 questions down to these very doable writing prompts. First, write down what happened today. A simple bullet point list. What did I do today? Oh, yeah, that's what I did. Oh, yep, those are the words that I said. Oh, that's what I was thinking. And then simply look over the list. Remember the day, because the days go by so quickly. That's the first question. What did I do today? Write it down. The second, where today was I in sync with the inner light? Usually characterized by the presence of virtue. Remember what Socrates said about the inner life and virtue in the last episode. So that second question could be, where today did I experience virtue? Where today did I practice virtue? And write it down. And the third question, where was I not in sync with the inner light? Usually characterized by the presence of anti-virtue. Anxiety instead of peace, fear instead of courage, tightening instead of generosity, which can be hard because, we are disposed to beating ourselves up. So in the next episode, we'll talk about creating a culture of not doing that. But that's the question, the third question. Where was I not in sync with the inner light? And we write it down. Fourth, what is my intention for tomorrow? Seeing today more clearly now, how can I set my intention for tomorrow to be more in sync with the inner light, more in sync with virtue? And again, write it down. It's been a transformative tool for us. In the first several years of our community, I'd lead a month of Wednesday evenings twice a year. This was back before traffic made it really difficult to come out midweek. We'd dim the lights, have 10 minutes of mindfulness meditation, 10 minutes of examine practice, writing it down, and then we'd have a break with some tea and cookies, and then we'd gather in groups for the balance of the hour to talk about what we had seen when we wrote it down. We would talk about when we were in sync and when we were not. We would talk about our aspirations going forward. And the folks who participated in those Wednesday evenings became very dear to one another. It's a transformative, write it down tool. So again, self-awareness is not a thing without practice. So here are a couple of tools that have helped us. Now, in the next episode, another tool, a big one, how we turned writing it down into deep transformation. If you'd like to be notified when that one goes live, go ahead, subscribe.